The moment his name lit up my phone, my hands started shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I didn't answer. I sat on the edge of my bed, listening to the rain hit the window, knowing that one honest conversation would ruin the careful distance I'd been building for months. Somewhere deep in my chest, love was trying to surface, and I was doing everything I could to drown it. Before we continue, drop your city and time in the comments, and thanks for listening to my story. Now back to the story. I wasn't supposed to fall for him. That wasn't part of the plan. And yet, every time he said my name, it felt like he was calling me back to a life I was quietly preparing to leave. I'm telling you this now because silence can look a lot like strength from the outside. Because fear can dress itself up as independence. And because the most dangerous thing I ever did wasn't getting sick. It was loving someone while pretending I didn't. I met Evan on a random Thursday evening in Seattle, the kind where the sky hangs low and the air smells like wet concrete. I was standing in line at a coffee shop near Pike Place, scrolling through emails I didn't care about, trying to feel normal. He was behind me, complaining to no one about how oat milk should be free at this point. I laughed before I could stop myself. That laugh changed everything. He smiled like he'd been waiting for it. We started talking. Nothing deep, nothing important, just two people killing time. I remember noticing how calm he felt. Not exciting, not overwhelming, just steady. We sat at opposite ends of a long table, coffee cooling between us, conversation stretching longer than it was supposed to. He asked what I did. I told him I edited videos. I didn't tell him why I'd started documenting everything in my life like time was fragile. When we finally left, the sky was already dark. He asked for my number like it was no big deal. I gave it to him like it was. That was the first lie. Evan texted me later that night, then again the next morning, then somehow became the person I talked to before bed without ever deciding it. We took things slow, or at least I pretended we did. I controlled the pace. I always do. I told myself I was just enjoying the moment, that I deserved something good, even temporarily, that I could leave before it got complicated. But love doesn't ask permission. By winter, Evan knew my coffee order and my bad habit of biting my nails when I was nervous. He noticed when I went quiet for no reason. He noticed when I flinched at future plans. We walked through Capitol Hill with our hands brushing, but never fully holding. We shared fries at dive bars and pretended it didn't mean anything when our knees touched. He kissed me one night outside my apartment, soft and hesitant, like he was checking if I was real. I kissed him back like someone starving. That night, after he left, I sat on my bed and stared at the wall until the city went quiet. Then I opened my laptop and hit record. "Hey," I said to the camera, forcing a smile. "This is probably stupid." I stopped, deleted it, tried again. Those videos weren't for him yet. They were for the version of him I'd eventually hurt. They were insurance against the truth I wasn't ready to say out loud. I didn't want him to fall in love with me, because I already knew how this ended. The doctor had been kind but honest. Time wasn't on my side. Treatments would slow things down, not stop them. I walked out of that office feeling like my life had been quietly relabeled. Limited edition. I didn't tell Evan. I told myself I would. Later. When I figured out how. Instead, I built walls. I canceled plans last minute. I avoided deep conversations. I laughed things off when he got serious. When he said things like, "I'm really into you," I responded with jokes. When he talked about the future, I changed the subject. And still, he stayed. One night, Sitting on his couch while rain rattled the windows, he looked at me differently, like he was seeing the outline of something I was hiding. "You don't let anyone get close," he said gently. I shrugged. "Guess I like my space." He nodded, but his eyes didn't believe me. That night, I recorded another video, then another, some calm, some raw. I talked about the way he smiled when he thought no one was watching, the way his presence made the pain quieter, the way I hated myself for wanting more. I labeled them carefully, dates far in the future, messages he wasn't meant to see yet, because I still thought I had time. The argument happened on a Sunday, the kind of argument that's quiet but heavy. He wanted clarity, commitment, honesty. I stood in my kitchen, phone in my hand, heart racing. I knew this was the moment everything would either deepen or end. So I did the cruelest thing I could think of. I typed the words quickly before I could rethink them. "Don't fall in love with me." I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. Then I sent it. His reply came minutes later. Simple, honest. "I already am." I slid down the cabinet and cried until my chest hurt, because I loved him too, and because loving him meant leaving him. What I didn't know was that my secret was already slipping out of my control, that files meant to stay hidden don't always listen, and that sometimes the truth reaches the people we're trying to protect before we're ready to face it ourselves. And that was only the beginning. The truth found him on a Tuesday afternoon while I was sitting in a white hospital room pretending my hands weren't trembling. Machines hummed softly beside me, steady and indifferent, like time itself didn't care what I was losing. I didn't know it yet, but Evan was about to hear my voice in a way I never meant him to. I had always believed secrets stayed where you put them. Locked, organized, safe. But secrets are impatient. They want air. They want witnesses. Evan told me later it started with a notification. A preview thumbnail on his phone while he was standing in line for lunch near his office downtown. My face. Red eyes. A timestamp he didn't recognize. The title alone was enough to stop his breath. "If you're watching this, I'm gone." He didn't open it right away. That matters. He closed his phone and stepped outside, cold wind cutting through his jacket, heart pounding like it already knew what was coming. By the time he got home, the sun had dropped behind the skyline. He didn't take off his shoes, didn't turn on a light. He sat on the edge of his couch and pressed play. I appeared on the screen looking smaller than he remembered, calmer, braver than I felt. "Hey," I said softly. "If this video reached you before I planned, I'm sorry." He froze. The room felt suddenly too quiet. I told him everything I hadn't been able to say out loud. Not in medical terms, not with numbers or timelines. Just the truth stripped bare. I told him I was sick, that it wasn't temporary, that I'd known longer than I admitted. I told him I was afraid of being the reason someone carried grief for decades, afraid of being loved so deeply that leaving would destroy him. When I said his name, my voice broke. That was when Evan finally cried. He paused the video, stood up, paced the room like it was shrinking. Anger hit first, not at fate, at me. Angry that I had decided what he could survive. Angry that I had rationed love like it was poison. Angry that I had pushed him away while secretly holding him tighter than anyone ever had. Then he pressed play again. The next videos were raw, unfiltered, recorded late at night when fear was louder than reason. I talked about memorizing the sound of his breathing, about pretending I didn't care when he talked about the future, about crying in the shower so he wouldn't hear. "I loved you from the moment you felt safe," I said in one clip. And that scared me more than dying. Evan collapsed onto the couch. Let the truth wash over him. Every confession, every apology, every piece of love I'd hidden behind emotional distance. When the final video ended, his phone rang. The hospital. I remember the sound of footsteps rushing down the hallway before I saw him. The way his face changed when he entered the room. No confusion left, only clarity. He took my hand like he was afraid it might disappear. I tried to explain. He shook his head gently. "You don't have to," he said. "I know." For the first time, I didn't pull away, didn't soften the truth, didn't protect him from it. We talked quietly, about nothing important, about everything. He told me he would have loved me anyway, that knowing the ending wouldn't have changed the choice, that love wasn't about how long it lasted. That sentence settled into me like peace. The days that followed felt suspended. Time slowed, moments stretched. Evan stayed, held my hand, read aloud when my voice got tired, watched the city lights flicker on each evening like they were cheering us on. I stopped recording videos. I didn't need to anymore. Everything I'd been saving, I finally let myself give. When it was time, it didn't feel loud. It felt gentle, like drifting. I squeezed his hand once, just enough to say I wasn't afraid anymore. After I was gone, Evan found one last file, hidden deeper than the others. Recorded on a day I felt unusually brave. I smiled into the camera, not sad, not apologetic. "If you're watching this," I said, "it means you loved me despite everything." I told him not to close himself off, not to confuse pain with danger, not to mistake loss for failure. "I didn't let you love me fully," I said, "but I hope someday you'll let someone else love you even harder." Evan still carries me with him, not as a wound, as a memory that reminds him to be brave. And this is what I want you to know. Love isn't risky because it ends. It's risky because it changes you forever. Even knowing how mine ended, I would choose it again, every single time.